And the rocks are washed all the time. You're going to see some photos later on. Another important point is, as Don pointed out, there is where the African plate and the South American plate gets together, and there is a lot of seismic activity over there. The rocks are, in fact, the bottom of the sea that comes to surface. It's not a volcano. It's a kind of ridge that comes 4,000 meters from the bottom of the sea and gets on the top of the sea. So here you have a little photo. That is the only place that is a little bit flat on Belmont. And you see the little scientific station. The scientific station is a very small house. It's 50 square meters. And it's where the 4 scientists that I'm going to explain you in a minute stay over there. Brazil, I'll get back here. Brazil signed a treaty at UN where Brazil committed to have people in there in order to have right to the waters around the islands. It's 2,000 miles, it's 200 miles of Brazilian waters, and also you have the airspace that belongs to the country as well, as long as they have people over there. So the government established the scientific station in 1988 to fulfill this agreement, and the Navy rotates every 15 days 4 scientists on the rocks. The way they rotate is very different. They do not send Navy ships. They made a contract with a fishing boat company. So the fishing boat takes the scientists, stay there 15 days, take care of them. If there is any problem, because we are 1,000 kilometers far from the coast, they would rescue them and get back to the mainland. So they rotate with a very simple, very rustic fishing boat. So let's get back to the house. The house has only, the power is made by solar panels over here. You see that the rocks are white. This is one of them. This is the bird ship. So the birds do their estimates all over the rocks, including on the solar panel. The solar panel must be washed every day. In 2 days, there is no more power. Here you see the pillars. It's about 2 meters high. The water goes underneath it. Here now it's a kind of dry, but the water comes over here. And this is seismic isolator. Is when there is seismic activity, this protects the house. This is the second house. One was destroyed by the sea in 2006. Okay. So regarding HAMRADIO, Zambian and São Paulo rocks was added to the XCC in 1965. It was added in November. There has been no activation. Since the first activation that you have heard today earlier on, PY0XA by the expedition of that time, Don Miller. The expedition was invalid because it was even confirmed by him that he was not on the island at all. So in 1967, the first valid expedition, 2 years after it's being added to the XCC, was made by PY7s, and they got help from the Navy, so they got transportation from the Navy. Another one, there has been another one in 1968 by the same PY7s. So I just put some landmarks here. In 1978, there was a Great Day expedition made by 2 gentlemen, PY1RO and PY7 X-Ray Charlie. They did the first 106-meter operation. 1982, some Americans, 3 Americans, 2 Brazilians, PY0SP, PY0SJ were Brazilians. They made the first 6-meter operation from there. And the last meaningful operation was in 2001 by a group of 5 PY7s. They tried to land for 3 days. They could not land. The sea was very rough. They just could operate for 4 or 5 days maximum, but they had a problem with generators. They almost called off the operation. So that should be an important operation, unfortunately, because the sea and the generator problem, that was the last one and not very well finalized operation. In this website here, PY2YP, there is all the history about St. Peter and São Paulo. A lot of old logs were typed. So if you need a QSL card or something from old logs, you might find in there. So the same photo you have seen earlier on, Don Miller and her. This was taken apparently in Brazil mainland. And that is the emblematic photo from the PT0S operation. And when they decided to land, the sea was very rough. And you see how difficult it is to land in there. Okay. The most difficult thing that we had to do to go to St. Peter and São Paulo was to get a license. HAMRADIO was banished from the island for the last perhaps 12 years. And the reason, that was a statement on the Brazilian government website about HAMRADIO. So they said, well, HAMRADIO, there is no reason we would give license for it. So a lot of reasons, and it seems that I have to explain you another way. The HAMRADIO was banished in the rocks if you want to use all the facilities or be on the island. However, the Navy would bring somebody that would stay a couple days that we call what? Weekend operation. And there has been a couple weekend operations there. One of these weekend operations, I think it was in 2002, one of the gentlemen wired his power amplifier to the house mains. So he blew the power of the house. So the Navy decided at that point that nobody would come. You might work perhaps one station that has been there for 10 times. Meanwhile, it was a scientist, Y7JS. He was a scientist, a geologist, and he also operated while he was doing his research. But other than that, there was no activity from them. So to get the license, we had a lot of help from PY5EG, which is our chairman of Araucaria DX group, and he had to go through senators, politicians, admirals. It was a very difficult path inside the Brazilian government. We finally got to the point that we had to do a impact study, a report about the impact of our activity on the rocks. After we did that, we said, well, perhaps 4 people. That's why our team is so small, because the impact would be less with less people. And finally, we had to get approval from the Navy to stay and land on the rock. The Navy said, yes, you can stay. However, you have to use your own means. So we had to have our tents, generators, everything. We had to transport everything we needed to stay on the island. However, our relationship with the Navy was constantly improving, and we were able to use the internet. The internet was working. It was not working, but we got the authorization to use it, for instance. And these small things like this. So this is the gentleman that helped us with the license with the PY5EG that you might know. Okay, when we got the green sign to go, we had to have answers. So we had our Skype meetings we were not happy with the answers we had. We didn't know how was the ground level, was too rugged, how our tents would be put up, where we were going to install the antennas. So we decided to do a survey trip to there. So it was a 7 days trip. It's 3 days and a half to go there, 3 days and a half to get back, and we stayed 4 hours in there. So we checked the scientific station out. We're not able to use it, but we saw that there was a little lead outside the station. It was not inside the station that we claimed, and we got later authorization to use it. We checked for level ground. Absolutely no level ground. We had to do platforms. We checked antenna spots, and that was perhaps the biggest difficulty that we had was interference. We had a little KX3 in this recognition trip, and we turned on the KX3, and we had S9 plus 20 dB noise on 160 meters. And that was supposed to be a low-band expedition. So with that noise, 180 and 160 would never make it. So down there, George and I were looking to places where we could install reception antennas to get rid of the noise. So this is George doing our survey voyage, survey work. And we decided that we might have reception antennas on the rocks in front Belmont. One of the rocks that we chose was HAMRADIO. It's very difficult to get on it. But we decided that we would have two receiving antennas here with the cables passed underneath the water, with the control cables for the filters and amplifiers down here, and we would have to work for both stations. And that was already in August, and they just have 3 months to do everything. So the preparation was a nightmare. I was engaged to an expedition in the Pacific. Peter was engaged to another expedition in the Pacific, 3 Delta 2 Charlie. So we had to do everything in a very short period of time. So we had to purchase the material in Brazil, transport a lot of material from the United States to Brazil that we decided to do as checked bags, and buy the supplies and everything in Brazil just before going on the island. This is the boat we use. It's a very small boat. We hired the boat from the same company that takes the scientists. It takes 12 people, 8 fishermen and 4 other people, which was us. This boat is 16 meters long. It's wood made. It's terrible. So this is ourselves. We were using patches for seasick. So was Tommy, but Tommy was very bad. Tommy was green, yellow, blue. So he had a bad time on the boat. Even the chair we brought to the shed. This is a work boat. It doesn't have chairs. Just behind me is the kitchen. So the kitchen is outside. So the bunks are very small. It's just terrible. So this is the boat that was there with the scientists. So when we got there, that was the first thing we saw. 85 hours later. So the rocks is very. They are very small. You see there, and this is the boat that was. Helping the scientists that were in there already. So, antennas. We got there, we were very tired, but we understand that you have to work on antennas. So we put up the first vertical. You're going to see some other photos later. This is 60 meters high vertical with a tuner in the base, with the radio just in the salt water. This is an ideal way of using a vertical antenna. The ground resistance is close to 0. Everything is irradiated, So that's why you have a very good signal. The ground plane is actually the sea. It is an inverted L. There is a horizontal piece of wire over here to increase a little bit the impedance. This is an antenna when the waves hit it. You see, it's even a very dangerous place to work. We had a problem with the antenna. The tuner was damaged, so the coaxial cable a couple times, so we had to replace it. So this is the main antenna, the antenna that we use from 160 and 10 meters vertical. This is the power plant. We had 4 generators. We were very afraid to have problems with the generators. We knew that we have to be independent from the Navy or from the scientific station. We brought 4 just to use on one. And the generator just charged the batteries. We used 9 car batteries. And one of the stations ran 1 kilowatt out of 12 volts. How can you run a kilowatt from 12 volts? What kind of current would you draw? The magic, the solution of this is that you have 2 500 watt amplifier in parallel, combine it. So it's high current, but it's from 2 different amplifiers, and you do small battery banks. Those are car batteries. Those are normal battery chargers as well. So when we are ready to go in the first day, we turn on the radio, and there was S9 plus 20 of noise on 160 meters. And this was supposed to be a low-band expedition. So we did a CQ. George did a CQ, the first CQ, and then right away we worked GM3POY, Clive, and we worked 300 other stations during the night, even with the noise. That means that propagation was good, and we were working the big guns. So this is the construction of the second antenna. It's also vertical in the water. When we have the water in this thing, it's like a pot. You know, the antenna, the water gets very close to the tuner. And this we use it from 8 to 10 meters. This is the same vertical, 60 meter high, without the horizontal portion. You see the water there? So the antenna is completely underwater over there. So the water is passing underneath the house. This is the 6-meter antenna. Well, the problem with the island is that there are thousands of birds, probably like you guys down in Congo. The birds they think and they are sure that the island belongs to them. Everything that they see that we put, like a bag or anything, they go on it, they shit on it, so they are everywhere. So we had a bigger 6-meter antenna. We had an 8-element, 14 meters long, and we were going to do EME on 6. But when the biologist saw the antenna so big, he said that that's going to interfere with the bird. So we use a backup antenna in just a 5 elements, but the birds were, using it as well. So this is our main site. You see Tommy and myself here. Tommy is there. It was very small. We were in a 9 square meter room. This is what they call the lab. It's very wet. That's where the scientists, when they get a fish or something, they work in there with a fish or with a crab or some animals. So they just gave us a little portion of it. So there was minimum. Let me tell you what happened with interference. Finally, we did not have to put the receiving antennas on the other rock. The reason was that before installing the receiving antennas, we decided to go after the noise. You would ask yourself, they are 1,000 kilometers far from land. how come they have QRM? You know, not man-made noise. The reason is that there are a lot of scientific equipment, microprocessors, microcontrollers, inverters. The house is a transmitter by itself because it has solar panels and high power inverters. So we decided to change that noise, to use filters. We brought a lot of ferrite. But you know, that helped a little bit, but something was very noisy. So with the little KX3, we were looking for the noise. There was a container with a lot of scientific equipment, and I decided to open it. I cannot write it down, I just can tell you guys. And there is a scientific tank, a power supply that was making most of the noise. I just turned it off. So we had the S9 plus 20 to S6. So that's why we get rid of the noise. I had to found it and to turn it off. So the antennas were assembled, the reception antennas, on the same block of Belmont. Well, on the fly, we decided to do a 10-meter antenna. So we did a little vertical that was very close to the water as well, and we did 7,000 QSO barefoot with this antenna. So 10 meter was very good, propagation was absolutely outstanding. This is a meter on the 6-meter station. You're going to see later we managed to do over 1,000 contacts on 6 meters. So we got good propagation on that band as well. So this is the installation diagram. You see this is water, this is water. This is a little hill where the lighthouse is. And this is water down here too, where the 10-meter vertical is. And the 6-meter antenna, because the coaxial cable we intended to do EME, we could not put it very far from the house. Well, sleep. Who needs it? We slept, I think, average speaking, 4 hours a day. I tell you, I thought it was impossible. It is feasible. We did it. I mean, after a certain time, you can use it. So, this is George sleeping, Tommy working, and we slept everywhere, on the floor, wherever was possible, because we cannot use the house, actually. The logs. We had a commitment to download the logs daily, and I'll send them to LOTW. Internet in the house was not working. They had a dish, so a good internet, but it was not working. So we had to use the little satellite telephone here. Very low speed, no protocol. So George did it every morning, and sometimes he spent 4 hours doing this. Just slicing the log and transmitting the log. So we sent the log to Hungary, and our friend over there, he sent it to Blood Logs and to LOTW, etc. So those are the stations. Station number 1, we use the K3s, by the way. We use 3 K3s. We had 4, and we had a failure on one of them, by the way. We have to repair one on the site as well. So station number 1 uses 2 SGC 500 watts amplifier combined, which is delivers a kilowatt. Second station about a half, 500 watts, and the third station was K3 with 300 watts on 6 meters and barefoot on 10, and everything off the batteries. So this is the number 1. You see the ATU. The ATU was conceived and built by George. A7J, the JV is a homemade one. Can handle up to 2 kilowatts. It has 2 ports. Why 2 ports? With the port number 1, you do certain bands. We do 160, 80, and 40, and 30 with port 1, with the long wire. And port 2 is a smaller wire. It's actually a frame. We do the other bands. So it's automatic. When you go to 20, it selects port 2, then you use the small wire. So the reception antenna we use two flags, one northeast, another one southwest. We had George prepared the press selector and the low noise amplifier on a very nice box. And we could remote control the box and switch the antennas and so forth. Well, we also tried the SDR. We didn't use it very much, but we had the SDR running over there, so we could see the pylon. That was very, very interesting. We didn't see the skimmer. This is the 9-band press selector preamplifier. This was done in 3 months, or less than this, with the filtering and everything. Well, when we left Natal, we had a new deal with the boat company. We'd stay for the Secure Worldwide CW, so we would stay 3 days more. But we were advised that the Navy would do a major maintenance on the scientific station about the same time we were leaving. So we were waiting for a boat, a big ship from the Navy, but we were not certain if you could stay while they were doing the maintenance. There was a big maintenance. They were going to paint the house, do all the plumbing and everything. So 12 days later that we started the operation, the Navy arrived. And when they got on the rock, they said, well, we need your place. So we had to shut down immediately, because they would allow us to stay, but outside the house. There's no way to stay outside the house. There is no place at all. So our operation ended 12 days and a half later. We did 44,000 QSOs. Mainly, our focus was low band. We were on every sunset, every sunrise, on 80 and 160 simultaneously. So we didn't miss anyone, any sunset and sunrise. During the whole night, we were on both bands as well. So this is a little statistic. We did a little bit over 3,000 QSOs on 160, 4,000 and a half on 180. You see the 7,000 QSOs on 10 meters and 1,000 QSOs on 6 meters. So we try to average a little bit, be at least 3,000 QSO on every band. As we are not sleeping, that was very difficult. I slept on the keyboard many times, with huge pylons. So, as I told you, there was a low band before. We did about 30% of QSOs on those 3 bands here, 160, 80, and 40. And this is the 10 and 6 meter numbers. Our customers were, of course, North America and Europe, in the similar, not very much difference between. We were like the same distance from Europe and the United States. We did a lot of efforts with Asia and Japan, because it's very difficult. Propagation to Japan and Asia from that spot is rather difficult. And that's it. So those are all the guys that helped us, and I hope you enjoyed the presentation. If you have any questions, I'm here.